You were born back in 1926. What month again? I forget.
June the 6th, 1926. I got a bunch of sixes in my born days. I was born on Sunnyside Avenue in the city of Chicago, the big smoke hole.
So what hospital were you born in? Do you remember that one?
No, that I don't know, but the doctor's name was Dr. Fred Wamman.
Ah,
I'll never forget him. I was born, and when I was born, I had a condition, what they called rickets of the sternum bone, which is the bone that connects your ribs right through the center. It's the center bone that holds the ribs all together. And that had rickets, and it caved in my chest. And when they finally determined that they weren't going to do nothing about it, they didn't have any expertise at that time.
and you were saying that kind of hindered some of you were really good at basketball, right?
Well, later on in life, after I was going to grade school and so forth and so on, I started to excel in the sport of swimming first, and then I took up what we called the Scouts pace, was run and walk and run and walk, and I turned it into all running, and then I used to play quite a bit of basketball. Used to have pretty good shooting percentage from the floor. When I got to high school, I did have the opportunity to swim, and I did start playing basketball, but working for my father in between times, well, I didn't have enough time to pursue both the sports, but I did participate in a few track meets. I ran the half mile and I ran the mile, and I wasn't hindered at all as far as the breathing was concerned, but a little later on when I went for a physical while I was still in high school, the doctor told me I should stop for a simple reason. When he took the x-rays, my heart was beating into my lung and it was weakening the tissues of the lung, and he says it would collapse eventually and that wouldn't be good for me. So I had to stop my sports and just participate as a leisure bit. No more steady progress as far as practicing was concerned. No more meets of any kind.
How many kids did you have in the family again?
Well, I had a sister and I had a brother, both younger than I, and we had a pretty good childhood because my dad always was able to supply us with a good home and clothing and food on the table. We were what you might call one of the fortunate ones, and consequently we came out here, and when I was about 8 years old, they built their own home, their own summer home on Haynesville Road. But prior to that, we rented for a couple of summers over in Round Lake Park on Arbor and Knollwood Drive, on the corner over there of it was on the south east corner. The home was built like had a roof like the old barns used to have, and when we rented over there, it was only all stud partitions were up. There were no segregated rooms, so what we used to have to do was hang up blankets and sheets and things to separate the rooms.
Oh,
so there was
man.
no privacy. But we had a good time out here. And
How long was when was the roller rink established? When you come here?
that was established before we even came
Oh,
here.
okay. Was it in the
That
same
was
place as it is today?
Mr. and Mrs. Clausen, Carl Clausen, and their two sons, Carl and Bud. And Bud's name was Arnold, but we all called him Bud. And they both were working in a steel mill at the time, but they helped their dad build homes. If somebody wanted a home built, he would build a home, so that's where we wound up with our summer cottage on Haynesville Road. And we bought the property off of Mr. Jones, who was the liaison officer for the properties around here at the time.
The Haynesville Road, was that pretty much the same track that it is today, or was it farther away from the house?
No, it's the same track.
Really?
It's
Okay.
actually the same track. It didn't vary too much at all, except that they did widen it a little bit, and to accommodate the road condition that they put in. But other than that, why, it was the same all the way, and it was all gravel. Haynesville was all gravel, and Washington Street was called Renahan Road at the time, and that was all gravel.
Two-lane also then, two-lane or close one lane.
Well, we call them cow paths, so
Yeah.
whatever. They weren't, none of them were real big, because you didn't have the traffic.